All right, y'all. Today we are going to be doing something similar as yesterday, adding and subtracting rational expressions, but now we're starting in standard form. So go ahead and get that notes title down, 2.4 notes, adding and subtracting rational expressions in standard form. Okay, so the biggest difference is that we're starting with standard form. We are going to go through the same steps. So if you look at our steps, they're actually the exact same steps as yesterday. Factor, common denominator, distribute in the numerator, add and subtract in the numerator, factor and simplify. They're the exact same steps as yesterday. So you can write them down as we go, or you can just look at yesterday's steps and kind of like compare what we do. Okay, so first step, factor just the denominators. I'm looking at this first step right here, factor just the denominators. Yesterday, our denominators were fully factored, right? Now we need to factor these denominators, both of them, and we are going to practice factoring these without using the box. So we're going to leave the numerators the same. We have 5x in the numerator, and then we're going to have a new denominator. Copy the subtraction sign in the middle, minus, and then we have 4 in the numerator. And we will now factor our denominators. So again, I'm going to try to not use the box. The way I'm going to do that, or the x or the box. So the way I'm going to do that is, I know we're going to have two factors. My a value on both of these denominators is 1. So I don't need to use the x box. I'm just going to factor using my head, because we can do this. Factors usually start with x, right? So we're going to start our factors with x, and then we're going to put the number that multiplies and add to the right stuff in the spaces next to the x. Okay, so let's just think about this left denominator for now, this denominator. We need to multiply to -6, add to -1. All right, so I'm going to think of numbers that multiply to -6, add to -1, and I'm thinking -3 and +2. So that's what I'm going to put here, -3, +2. Let's do a quick check. Do -3 and +2 multiply to -6? Yes. Do they add to -1? Yes. So we're good. All right. Now for the second denominator, we need numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 4. What can multiply to 4 and add to 4? I'm thinking +2 and +2. So I'm going to put +2, +2, and I'll do a quick check. Do 2 and 2 multiply to 4? Yes. Do 2 and 2 add to 4? Yes. All right, cool. We have done step 1, factor just the denominators. Now we need to get a common denominator. So remember, the way that we got common denominators is we look at the factors in our denominator. We need one of each piece, or one of each factor. And then if there's a pair, we're only going to copy one. So we see 1x minus 3. As I keep looking, I see there's an x plus 2. And then we have a pair, another x plus 2, right? But then we have a third x plus 2. Y'all, when you break the pair, when it's like not in pairs, you actually need an extra. So we need one of each color, one of each factor that are represented by colors here in our common denominator. So let's go ahead and write our common denominator. I'm going to put everything underneath one denominator, and I need to make sure I remember to bring down my sign that's in the middle. So I'm going to bring down that minus sign up here, and then let's write our common denominator. We need 1x minus 3. We need an x plus 2 for these pink ones. For just that pair brings down 1, but then we need another x plus 2 because of this purple one. Okay, so that will be our common denominator. Now that we have one of each piece, we need to think about, what do we need to multiply by? So we look, what is missing from the first denominator? Well, I have an x minus 3, check. I have an x plus 2, but I need we need two x plus 2s in our denominator. So we actually have to multiply this fraction by x plus 2, because we're going to need two x plus 2s total in our denominator. What's missing from this fraction on the right? This denominator. The x minus 3, right? We need x minus 3 in both of our denominators. So we're going to multiply by x minus 3 over x minus 3. Cool. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and write what's on top, what's in our numerator, like next to the factors that we're multiplying by. So what am I talking about? I'm going to write 5x and x plus 2 in my numerator on the left-hand side. I like to put the 5x in front, x plus 2. And then I'm going to write 4x minus 3. So we have 4x minus 3. Sweet. So we are done with number 2, step 2 now. We have gotten a common denominator. Let's move on. Now we are going to multiply or distribute. We're on step 3. Multiply or distribute in the numerator. All right. So in the numerator, I need to distribute this 5x. And then I need to distribute this negative 4. So let's start with the 5x. We get 5x squared plus 10x minus 4x plus, because we have a negative times a negative, so that would be plus, oops, sorry y'all. We have plus 12, because negative 4 times negative 3 is 12. All right, our common denominator stays the same, so we still have x minus 3, x plus 2, x plus 2. We could write x plus 2 squared, because there's 2 of them, right? But we actually want to keep our denominator factored, so let's keep it factored for now. You'll see why in a second. Okay, now that we have we're done with step 3. We've multiplied or distributed in the numerator. Now we need to go on to step 4, add or subtract in the numerator. So we're looking for like terms in the numerator. I see 10x, positive 10x, and negative 4x, and those are the only like terms I see. So our numerator will now turn into 5x squared, and we have 10 minus 4, that's positive 6x plus 12. Sweet. Still over our common denominator, x minus 3, x plus 2, x plus 2. Awesome. Let's move on to step 5. We are only 2 steps away from being finished. So step 5 is to factor the numerator and simplify. All right, so we need to think, can we factor this numerator? So can we think of anything that multiplies to 5 times 12, multiplies to 60, and adds to 6? Multiplies to 60 and adds to 6. All right, I can't think of anything that multiplies to 60 and adds to 6, and there actually isn't anything that multiplies to 60 and adds to 6. So we actually don't need to factor this numerator. But if we were to be able to factor it, we always need to check for step 5. Always check if you can factor it, so that if you can simplify by crossing out terms, you make sure you do that. Okay, so our final answer is going to be the unfactored form on the top, because we can't factor it. So we get 5x squared plus 6x plus 12 over, and then I'm going to simplify by combining these two. So we're going to have x minus 3 and then x plus 2 squared. Sweet. And now for our last step, we need to write the excluded values, or the domain restrictions. What is x not allowed to equal? Remember, you do this from the unsimplified form. So look back at the unsimplified form. X is not allowed to equal positive 3, negative 2, and then this one's also negative 2. If you get an excluded value twice, you don't actually have to write it twice. So your excluded values are just positive 3 and negative 2. And then we box our final answer. That's it, y'all. All right. If you follow these steps every single time, you should be able to get the answer to the Khan Academy practice problems. Let's go and practice.